Nick Bravo. Nick, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Um, so I had quite a few thoughts. One was the Project Looking Glass thing. What I've learned from that is basically they've got there's two primary timelines. They both end up in the same place. The transcendental object at the end of time, which McKenna talked about quite a while back. The issue is the elites basically want to move the timeline to a negative timeline and then to a dystopian timeline and then drag it out for as long as possible. A lot of these spiritual entities, a lot of these interdimensional entities, from, books like, what is it, Stephen King's, The Shining and Doctor Sleep. Those things do exist. Spiritual vampires, that kind of a thing, astral vampires. One of the issues with the 6 foot thing with the COVID, from a spiritual level, the heart center, right, expands and a healthy person expands 6 feet. Now, so far as energetics, as has been explained to me by some of the entities that I'm in contact with, when humans gather together and close together, what that does is that creates a lot of energetic density that these entities can't really get through, because like on a crowded subway, instead of being able to focus on one person and focusing on getting through their shields, they're having to focus on getting through the shields of a bunch of people. If you spread humans out 6 feet apart, these entities can basically take their pick. Now, one of my concerns is that a lot of these entities, look, the elites are going to lose. They know they're losing. And one of my big concerns is when it starts to get really bad, you're going to see a lot of these things come out into the open. And it's going to freak people out. So spiritually, what we need to do is basically just, be as centered in our consciousness as possible, so that we can be the level-headed ones when these things, come up out of the ether, so to speak. They're going to be making themselves visible. They're going to be making themselves known. There are going to be people who, there's going to be people who say, "Oh, I want the aliens to save me," or they're going to say, "Oh, I want Marduk to save me," or "Oh, I want Jesus to save me." What they don't realize is they're actually choosing which entity is going to eat them. Because the thing of it is we're here to save ourselves. Yeah, we might be able to teach each other how to save each other and how to save ourselves, but a lot of these entities that we call interdimensional, they basically see us as a food source. And because they can shapeshift, because they can bend light, they can create illusions, people are going to see them as things that they're not actually. It's like some of those pictures of the deep sea where those fish have the lights on their head. The little fish swim to the light, and at the end of that light is a pretty big fish waiting to eat them. So I think that's one of the things we really have to pay attention to, and we have to be aware of, which is why we need to continue to do things like meditation, do things like the ayahuasca, keep our health up. Because the thing of it is, when you weaken the human body, what you're doing is you're destroying the ability for the battery to hold a charge. So if you're unhealthy, you're not going to be able to hold as much of an electrical charge, so to speak, and you're not going to be able to fight these things off nearly as well as you should. otherwise be
that's
able
very well said, Nick. I want to say this as you were speaking. It's really resonating, and it reminds me of those fish. Do you remember those fishery that are in the deep, deep, deep sea? It has a little light that hangs over it, and it uses that as bait. And the new agers are like swimming, and they're like, "Oh, let's go to the light. Let's go to the light." And as soon as they go to the light, boom, they get eaten. Yeah.
Yep, they're gone.
Yeah. Another thing is that actually showed me, or at least an entity that claims to be Set that speaks to me occasionally. It actually showed me a couple of the people, in a, I don't know, a vision or something of like some of the people who are my online trolls, and they were basically perfectly possessed NPCs, non-human entities riding around in meat suits. And so, we have to realize that we're not all the same kinds of consciousnesses. We're not all the same types of spirits. We're from multiple places. I mean, this multiverse, this universe, this whatever this existence is, it's so incredibly huge, and it's so incredibly there's more variety and life than we can really understand, even though we're in these physical bodies. Because within the ether, within the astral, within the quantum realm, if you want to call it that, there's all kinds of life forms. So, we might be one of the more vulnerable life forms. We don't know. Or maybe this is, a factory farm. We don't know. So I think it's really important for us to get ourselves as spiritually powerful as individuals as we possibly can, because there is nothing coming to save us. Trump's not going to save you. I mean, God love him, but he's not going to save you. Nobody's coming to save you. As far as China, one of the things that I've heard on the Clyde Lewis show was, two things. One was around June 21st or so, there was an electromagnetic wave that hit the Earth, and it took 30 minutes to pass over. It did not come from the sun. They still don't know where it came from. The second thing is, he did a Ouija board episode, and what was coming off that was some things concerning China and India. China is really ramping up to be this century's Nazi Germany. So that could be a problem. Hopefully, if there's any Third World War or nuclear exchange, it happens over there. But unfortunately, our communications infrastructure is so vulnerable. So everybody kind of basically, if you want to stay into contact with people, make sure you have, make sure all your eggs are not in one basket. Because if you just have YouTube or just Facebook or just Twitter, you might get knocked off and not be able to get into contact with people. I know big tech. I criticized China on Facebook. I got banned for 30 days. I criticized China on Twitter. I got banned for a week. So big tech is really going to bat for them. And unfortunately, what the technocrats don't realize is the technocrats think that if they snuggle up to the Marxists, that the Marxists will take pity on them or will benefit them. That's not what happens. The criminal, the Marxist, I'll just call it criminal consciousness. The criminal consciousness uses you either as a resource, and if you cannot be used as a resource, it will destroy you. And so, same with this virus. When they are at the point where they know they're going to be ultimately defeated, they're going to try to shut everything down. They're going to try to break everything down. They're going to go for broke. And the criminal consciousness is, if they can't have it, they'll destroy it. So again, we really have to be spiritually and consciously aware. So if something does go wrong, where we can be the ones who keep a cool head and help everybody else kind of wake up and get through it.
You know, I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying, and a couple of points I want to make. So I want to be clear for the audience out there. I don't think Trump is going to save us. I think Trump is a marker
Oh yeah,
on how we can kind of determine what's going on in the energetic realm and which way the scales are going to tip. That being said, there was one other thing. The Marxists and big tech acquiescing to them. I see this in the liberals a lot, white liberals especially. They think like, oh, take pity on me, take pity. I'm on your side, I'm on your side. But the mob does not care. The mob, as you said, uses people, then spits them out, and they will turn just like that. You acquiesce to them on one thing, they're going to demand 10 other things, and the demands are going to keep going until you no longer give in to the demands. Then they're going to turn on you. That's why from the very, very, very beginning, I will not acquiesce to any of that bullshit. But you're right. We could very well lose our YouTube channel as a result. We're already shadow banned. I know that for a fact.
Oh yeah. I had to leave YouTube because of the haters, and when the entity called Set showed me a couple of those people, I mean, it was like, I mean, I don't know if they're reptilian in spirit or what the hell they are, but I could literally taste the hatred coming off of them. And it wasn't just me they're going after as many people as they can. So again, I think it's very important for all of us to really, get our house in order, so to speak, build up our, spiritual energy, build up our physical body, do what we need to do to manifest that higher consciousness, so that when and if things do get really bad, people will turn to us for guidance so we can help people who actually want and need to be helped. Because maybe I've just read too many history books, but I definitely do see a potential timeline where it gets really, really bad. I mean, we're talking, World War II level bad. I don't think it's going to happen. I hope it doesn't happen. But the virus and the elites, they're going to put out all the stops. And it's like what Shuri said on one of the last shows. These people want to be able to feed openly. They literally want to be able to just like you go to the store and pick out a can of soda. They want to be able to go to the store and pick out a child and have their way with them. And it's terrifying, and it needs to be stopped. But we've got to make sure that we're in a position spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally where we can stop them. Because it's not about being, horrified and freaking out about it. It's about, just like a surgeon is going to be, kind of cold and emotionless and unfeeling when he's operating on you. When we have to go after these vampires, these parasites, these things, these elites, whatever they are, if it comes to that, we have to be just as predatory as they are, because it's going to be a fight to the death. Give no quarter, because they're not going to give a quarter to you. And if you said something they didn't like 10, 20 years ago, they're still going to come after you and do something to you. They don't care. There is no forgiveness in the mind of the criminal. There is no forgiveness. There is no redemption. There's just, can I use this person, or do I need to destroy this person? And the average person does not understand that. And that's why I think a lot of people just aren't standing up and doing much of anything, because they think, it's not going to get that bad, or they think the government's going to save them. But as we can see in Portland, it's a war zone, and it's happening in other cities.
You're right.
Don't be afraid. Be vigilant.
Very well said. We appreciate the call, Nick.
Okay, take care.
Love you, brother.